My name is Nicole Marchand-Golden, and I am running for DeKalb County Solicitor General. I am running because I'm a wife, mother of 2 children, and I have a desire to keep DeKalb families, much like mine, safe. I believe that I am the proper candidate for this job because I have the experience, leadership, and the service to do a good job. I started my legal career as an assistant solicitor, working in the courtrooms, prosecuting domestic violence cases and DUIs and theft cases. I also was the chief assistant solicitor general, which is the #2 in the office, and was even acting solicitor for 4 months. I have the experience to do the job. Please vote me, Nicole Golden, for Solicitor General on May 24th.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Donna Coleman-Stribling, and I am running for the position of DeKalb County Solicitor General. And the reason why I'm running for this office is because I believe this office is the place where we touch each and every citizen in DeKalb County. 90% of the people who are sitting in this room right now has been touched or will be touched by the crimes that occur in the Solicitor General's office. And because I'm vested in this county, because I live in this county, because I've been raised in this county, I'm from this county, and I have 2 boys who will be raised in this county, I want to make this county better.
Thank you. Let's take the first question from Greg.
Thank you. I guess, Ms. Golden, you've been in the solicitor's office. When were you there?
My first stint was in 2003, and then I finished 2003 through 2004 as an assistant solicitor general, and then as chief assistant solicitor general from 2007 to September 2010, and then acting solicitor from September 2010 to December 2010.
All right. Well, let me ask you a little bit about what the role of the Solicitor General as you see it. As in that role, you're essentially overseeing a good-sized law firm. Are you an administrator? Are you a prosecutor? Do those roles overlap? And I'm going to roll in a third question. The Solicitor General, you're dealing with what, for lack of a better word, we'll call lower-level offenders. How should those folks, so many of whom are encountering the justice system for the first time, how should they be treated when they run into your office?
Sure. Well, to answer your first question, the Solicitor General is both a prosecutor and an administrator. And I would add a third duty to that. You are a policymaker. So you set the tone for the office, and what you set and the opinion or how you look at crime passes down to the people that you supervise. When I was there, we had about 75 employees, about 25 of which were attorneys, and the rest was support staff. And we managed about a $6 to $7 million budget. So I'm familiar with the office, how to run the office. I did that as chief assistant and acting solicitor. And then to answer your question about low-level offenders, these are folks who have just come into the office, or just come into the criminal justice system, quite a few of them. And so it's important, it's an opportunity I look at for the solicitor's office to get those individuals, put them through rigorous programming as opposed to prosecution and or jail, and give them the opportunity to rehabilitate, like the judge mentioned earlier, so they don't progress to further and more difficult or serious crimes, like felonies. And I've worked in both as a misdemeanor prosecutor and a felony prosecutor, so I know this is the opportunity to grab hold of those people and make some changes in their lives.
Thank you very much. A question from Jennifer.
Donna, can you tell us what's in your background that will prepare you to run the Solicitor General's office?
Well, first, I've served as a prosecutor for 13 years. Right now, I am head of the DeKalb County District Attorney Crimes Against Children Unit, where I manage and supervise over 400 cases a year, 4 attorneys, including myself, 4 investigators, 2 victim advocates, as well as a legal assistant. So I have the management skills as well as supervisory skills to manage a group of individuals who deal with these cases every single day. I deal with cases that I consider to be some of the hardest cases in this county. And what that means is that every day I deal with victims, I deal with police officers, I have to go back to those particular resources and develop relationships with a group of people and when we make decisions on what should happen with these cases. In addition to that, I've been a defense attorney. And as a defense attorney, that brings a balanced perspective to the office of the Solicitor General. I've worked on both sides. And that allows me to run this office in a way that deal with alternative resolutions to some of these cases and learning when to prosecute them, learning when to deter crime,
Thank you.
dealing with how to handle each one of those cases.
Thank you. Yeah, we have some technical difficulties, so we're going to have to talk a little louder. Question for Mark.
You both currently work in the district attorney's office, and you've been there for several years. What do you know of each other, and how would you differentiate each other from both of you, having worked together? What are the differences between the two of you based on your knowledge of each other?
Sure. Well, I'll start first, if that question was directed. I am presently, as I stated, the Deputy Chief of the Crimes Against Children Unit. I handle those cases every single day. I'm in court every single day. My relationship with Nicole is that she is, in fact, my supervisor. She is the chief assistant in this particular office. But let me tell you what's different. I have been a defense attorney before. I've run an office as a defense attorney before. I've managed an office as a defense attorney before. I've had to also deal with budget. I have a balanced perspective on how these cases should be handled. My career is not just in prosecution. My career is also with regard to the defense. And in addition to that, I've worked outside of DeKalb County, which allows me to bring some leadership skills that could pull us in a positive role, to understand that I've worked under a number of district attorneys in pulling the good and recognizing sometimes the bad. I can bring a different perspective to this office.
Thank you. Question for Greg. Yeah, was there a double?
Yes, the other thing I would say about the relationship with Donna and I is that we are friends. So this has been a very cordial election and process, and I'm very happy for that. But I think the thing that sets us apart, and from my perspective, is I've done the job. I've set policy, I've managed people, large number of people, I've managed large budgets, and I've put together a lot of the programs that we've talked about for low-level offenders, mental health court, diversion programs, you name it. I've been instrumental in creating those programs, not only in the solicitor's office, but the DA's office, so that I can start from day one. I can do this job. I have the experience to do it. And that's the difference, or what I feel that separates me from my opponent, is just the experience to do the job.
Now we'll take a question from Greg.
Well, whichever one of you gets this, you have the enviable position of stepping into a clean office. Sherry is moving out, so you won't have any pushback from below. Are you, and this is for both of you, are there particular initiatives, avenues, things that you think the solicitor's office should do, or is it a well-oiled machine and you just want to step in and take the keys? What are you going to do if you get there, to both of you?
I'll begin with that. One of the things that I think that I will focus on when I get to the solicitor's office is streamlining some of the community prosecution. And when I say that, I think it's important that in that office right now, there are 2 full-time community prosecutors, which is absolutely awesome. But building a relationship with those community prosecutors and the local businesses as well as the citizens is something that I think will bring an asset to that particular office. I think that allowing the community to come into that office, local businesses, nonprofit organizations, to come into that office, develop relationships with that office, and bring resources to that office where they're not there right now, will enhance the office. I agree with you. I think it has been working as a well-oiled machine, but I will say that Sherry's been there roughly for about 5 years. There's been a significant amount of changes that has happened, and it will give me the opportunity to move on with those particular initiatives.
What I would bring to the office is 2 things. First, a rigorous and detailed mental health court. We don't have an accountability court for mental health participants or people who come through the court system that have mental health issues. We have created that in the Superior Court that actually just started last month under the direction of Superior Court Judge Asha Jackson. So I would look to partner with the state court bench for bringing that to the solicitor's office, and then also have us involved or be a partner or a member with the Family Protection Center, which is a one-stop shop we opened a year ago for victim services. It allows victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, elder abuse, child abuse, to go to one place, a very safe and secure place in the first floor of the fire rescue building, right next to police headquarters, and get the services they need so that they don't have to go all around the county trying to get the help that they need. So right now, the solicitor is not a partner with the Family Protection Center, but that's one thing I would bring them into the fold. It's one of the things that I worked with several nonprofits to do last year, and that's one of the things I would bring to the office.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Only one of you will get the job. So I'd like each of you to tell me what the other person's biggest strength would be if that person got elected.
Repeat the question.
I can answer it. On my end, I would definitely say compassion for Donna. With Donna, we work together, as she mentioned. I supervise her, but I feel like it's more like a partnership when we over the Crimes Against Children unit. I worked in that unit as well when I was an assistant district attorney, so I know the importance of that unit and the importance of helping children. And so what I've seen in Donna and what I've always admired about her is her compassion for children and for the work that she does with the child victims of DeKalb County.
And tell me something good about Nicole.
Well, and one of the things that you have to understand is that no matter what, you're right, we'll be here. Nicole and I are both residents of DeKalb County who worked in DeKalb County for a significant period of time. So she does have some knowledge, working knowledge of what goes on in DeKalb County, but I would actually prefer to take the last few seconds to talk about myself. Because let me explain something. The day-to-day work that I've done inside of these courtrooms is significant. I have tried, my last trial was just on February 12th. I am day-to-day in court. I deal with the law enforcement officers, I deal with the child abuse protocol, I'm head of the child fatality review team, and that brings the relationships in this county with the different entities that will allow me to run the solicitor's office.
Thank you, Mark.
We have an audience question.
Oh, we do?
Is that good?
All right.
Okay. For both of you, how will you balance this notion of being tough on crime and ensuring public safety while also balancing the need for more equitable prosecution as well as sentencing? Please give examples.
Well, I have to do that already in my job as a number 2 in the DA's office, and I did as a number 2 in the solicitor's office. If a defense attorney has a position on a particular case in one of our ADAs or ASGs, they don't see eye to eye, they come to me. And I have to listen to those cases every single time, and I have to make the tough decisions sometimes, especially if we don't have what we need to prove the case, or if it just doesn't make sense. We can prove the case all day long, but with regard to what's being fair and equitable, it's just not there. I have to make those tough decisions every single day. I'm also responsible for handling all the officer-involved shooting cases in our office. That is the toughest cases to handle, trust me, because you have someone died and you have a police officer that's in the waiting or on the side waiting for a decision to be made. So I have to make the heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching decisions every single day. That's what I do in my job, and only I do those. So again, I'm prepared from day one to do this job. I have the experience, and I've worked in doing this for years, and I know I can do the job from day one.
Thank you.
Let me begin by stating that with crimes against children, alternative resolutions typically are not something that we can deal with. I look forward to dealing with that in the solicitor's office. By the time a 10-year-old child comes to me and tells me that someone has violated them in ways that you cannot imagine, there is very little I can do for that particular defendant. My goal in the solicitor's office is to deal with cases, of course, that we can find resolutions to. They're low-level offenders. These are first-time offenders. Very likely they are between the ages of 18 and 25. They have committed an offense that will keep them from getting a job. They have committed an offense that won't allow them to drive. They've committed an offense that likely will keep them from continuing to prosper. So my goal is to get them back into society. The only way we're going to build a society in DeKalb County that we're proud of, get people back to work, is to recognize that there's some people that simply don't need a conviction. And my goal is to provide them with the opportunity to keep that from happening and resolve their cases in different ways.
I have a question for both of you. I hear from officers often, they rail against this, that they arrest so-called low-level offenders and then they're right back out on the street. And they say what you call low-level is a high level to whoever has been victimized. What do you say to those officers?
Well, number one,
Let me start with you because you got some questions.
Well, there has to be a proper vetting of the case. You have to look at it and you have to give sentencing that's fair. That's why we've employed diversion programs for these individuals, so that they're not just processed through the system and they're right back on the street. The programs that I've started when I was in the solicitor's office as well as the DA's office are year-long programs where they have to do ankle monitoring, curfew, dress for success, job skill training, you name it, even cognitive behavioral therapy that is evidence and research based. We've done our dirty work and we've done our research. We know what it takes to make these people successful. So if the officers are seeing them back out on the street, they're not committing further crimes. They are hopefully gainfully employed and being good community servants. So that's what's important. If you're going to put somebody back out on the street, you have to give them the tools to be successful and to not be arrested again.
I'm going to answer that in actually two parts. First of all, as a prosecutor, worked dealing with drug cases in Fulton County, which was my primary job, I dealt with major narcotics. That means the people who were basically facing mandatory minimums. I know how drug cases go. And I understand that an officer can arrest someone and then the next day they're out on the street and that bothers them. And I agree, it's a problem. To say that it is not a problem and that we don't see that, it's simply an untruth. It happens. But the goal is to stay into their lives. See, the cases that you're dealing with in the solicitor's office are the quality of life crimes. It's the crimes that deal with how our community looks, whether our streets are safe, whether we feel that we're safe, and even educational neglect. So the goal is to stay in their lives. The programs that Ms. Golden spoke about, I understand that when she was there, they were programs that were really just getting started, but to say that they were fully functioning is simply not true. And so one of my goals is to make sure that they are fully functioning and that we get our businesses, our nonprofits involved in these programs.
Thank you, Greg. And we're going to wrap this up. This is the last question and we'll move on to closing statements.
In the solicitor's office, a lot of the offenses, a lot of the crimes that you're going to deal with are crimes that, depending on who someone is, it's either a minor nuisance or it's life-changing. Somebody who doesn't have the $500, the $1,000 fine, somebody who can't afford to get out and has to spend a month, 2 months in jail, that could be a life-changing thing for them. Whereas for me, if I hang out with you guys after tonight and have one too many, I can probably make bond and get out. How will you balance that? Or is that your job? Is that somebody else's job to balance that?
That is my job. As a Solicitor General, we have a jail plea calendar, so we fast track people. That's a process that's been in place since I've been in the Solicitor's office as an assistant solicitor. It's a fast track. It allows you to get before a judge within a week or less of you being arrested if you can't make bond, so that people aren't languishing in jail because they simply can't afford to pay for it. So that's something that's already in the office. And of course, from day one, I would look at all the processes and procedures and make sure that they were being followed correctly. And if anything needs to be corrected, I have the experience to do it. Again, as an assistant solicitor, I used to handle the jail plea calendars that were at the jail. So I understand what you're saying, and I totally agree. And it's important. We don't want anybody in jail simply because they can't afford it. But we do have procedures that have been in place that have been there for quite some time. But I would just reinforce them and make sure that they were functioning properly.
The primary issue with dealing with an individual who, like you say, is very different. Hopefully I can make bond, or at least my husband will try to bond me out, so we can go out and have one too many tonight. But I will say that it is important that we make sure there are some people who simply can't even afford a MARTA card. And so when I say developing relationships with nonprofits, developing relationships with local businesses. That's exactly the type of things that they can provide to these individuals. You see, you stay in a person's life and you give them the opportunity to grow. This should be the hope is that this is a one-time offense. But trust me, when you get everybody at the table, having a relationship with all the partners, the local businesses, the nonprofits, the solicitor's office, and the DA's office, you get everybody working towards the same goal.
Thank you. We will now have closing statements. We'll start with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stated earlier that I'm from DeKalb County. That is something I'm extremely proud of. I've lived here for the 35 years of my 42. I'm raising 2 boys, and my goal is to never see them inside of this court system, either as a victim or a defendant. And my goal as your next Solicitor General is to ensure that that office is efficient, is effective. And I say that word because we need change. It is not simply about the status quo. It is not simply about policy. It is about making sure that we move forward. I have the experience. I've been a prosecutor and defense attorney for over 17 years, and I want you to vote for me on May 24th. Donna for DeKalb is my website. Donna Coleman-Stribling for DeKalb County Solicitor.
Thank you. Your closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need people with experience, people who have handled misdemeanor crimes. In the solicitor's office, we handle DUIs, we handle domestic violence cases, we handle vehicular homicides, we handle misdemeanor property theft. I've worked in the solicitor's office. I've done the work, I've prosecuted those cases. Prosecution, yes, I've been a prosecutor for 13 years as well, but I'm the only person on this stage that has prosecuted misdemeanor crimes, has worked in the solicitor's office, is familiar with the solicitor's office, how to run it, and what it takes to make it successful. So I'm not talking about what I'd like to do, I'm talking about what I've already done, and I'd appreciate your vote. Nicole Marchand-Golden for Solicitor General. Thank you.